Hello, Mountain View Bible Camp family. Welcome again to the Mountaintop Advent series as we continue reading the book Love Came Down at Christmas by Sinclair B. Ferguson. Chapter 13, Rejoicing, Right or Wrong. Love does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 6. I once heard of a Christian student group who reproduced and distributed in a booklet form Paul's words in Romans 1, verses 18 to chapter 3, verse 20, without indicating their source. In these verses, Paul powerfully and relentlessly exposes the sinfulness of all humanity and argues that we are guilty before the judgment seat of God. Soon, the student leaders were required to appear before the university authorities because of the inflammatory nature of the literature they were distributing. They were also told to bring the author. It was a very revealing incident. The academic authorities apparently had no knowledge of Paul's letter to the Romans, despite its status as probably the most famous and certainly the most studied letter ever written in the manifesto of Christian faith. Not only so, but by their reaction, they were unwittingly giving testimony to its continued relevance. Paul's expose of sin ranges from creature worship through the shameless and unnatural sexual relations to the parental disobedience and ruthlessness. The closing words of Romans chapter 1 are particularly telling. Though they knew God's decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. It's sometimes said that misery needs company, and it turns out that sin and sinners do too. Other people may be encouraged to share the sinful lifestyle, for numbers provide validation and justification. After all, if everyone else is doing it, it must be okay. That's why sin will not rest content with tolerance and its presence. It demands approval and eventually celebration. We see that in our culture now more than ever. And in the face of such sin, we might conclude that all the Bible's talk about the wrath of God is an empty threat. No thunderbolts come down from heaven in response, but what Paul makes clear is that God's present expression of his wrath is that he gives people over to their own desires. The effect is that what they rejoice in is self-destructive. As C.S. Lewis notes, the words, "Thy will be done," can be the most terrible in the universe if spoken by God himself. Christian love moves in a very different direction. It does not rejoice in sin and its consequences, but in God and his grace, in beauty, in goodness, and in truth. Why is rejoicing with the truth, not in wrongdoing, so important? Because one way or another, we tend to become like whatever we rejoice in, and that cannot remain hidden. Many years ago, as I wrote a book of the words with best wishes, Sinclair B. Ferguson, I happened to say to the woman who had asked me to autograph it, "I hope you're not a handwriting analyst." She blushed. "You are?" I responded. "I'd been interested to know what you make of this." She protested initially, but eventually I persuaded her to analyze my handwriting and tell me what she saw. I was amazed at how much she could accurately tell about my personality from the way I had written half a dozen words. She saw things I never noticed, but which were obvious when she pointed them out to me. But it would be wise to draw a veil over that. My personality, what I was, emerged even in scribbling a few words in a book. It dawned on me then why so many adverts contained the words, "Applicants should apply in their own handwriting." I thought the employer simply wanted to know that the applicants could write legibly, but many companies would send the applications to handwriting analysis, asking, "What can you tell me about this individual?" You don't see job adverts like that today, for a very simple reason. Companies don't need handwriting analysis any longer. Instead, they can examine Twitter accounts and social media postings. They look for patterns, and these patterns are an index of what we rejoice in, and therefore of who and what we really are. The chairman of a search committee in a church I served once brought me 3,000 tweets posted by a person who seemed to be a strong candidate for a ministry position. The chairman had noticed a disconcerting pattern of what this candidate most rejoiced in. I felt sure the person almost certainly didn't realize it, but it was permanently embedded in a Twitter account for discerning eyes to see. Do you see the point here? Who we really are emerges in the trivial and incidental details of our lives, in our handwriting, our tweets, and in 1,000 other ways. And what we love, what we rejoice in, leaves a permanent mark on our characters. We can never ultimately hide it. Followers of the truth rejoice in the truth, and that never remains hidden. So, what do you most rejoice in? In the truth, or in the fact that you won the argument? In the signs of God's generosity to you in a work situation? Or in the thought of your own reputation being advanced? In the growth in character you see in your children? Or in the relief that they didn't embarrass you in public? Do you not rejoice at wrongdoing? More pointedly, do you not rejoice at wrongdoing even when it happens to someone who has a job you would like, enjoys the admiration you covet, or, for that matter, was guilty of wrongdoing to you? And if we are people who rejoice with the truth, then it will be the truth of the Christmas message that is our greatest joy at this time of year, even when there are so many other trimmings to enjoy too. This is a central truth that is worth rejoicing in this Christmas. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. Despite the opposition of the prince of wrongdoing, Christ successfully undid all the wrongdoing that began with Adam. The devil is a liar and the father of lies, yet grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. The message of Christmas is that Jesus came to a human race that had exchanged the truth about God for a lie. What lie? Genesis 3 explains. Excuse me. The lie about God's word and character. The lie that he is not holy, good, and kind, and that his word is not to be trusted. In Jesus, God has exposed that lie for what it is. He gave his Son for us. He thus shows his love for us. In his coming, not only did the righteous die for the unrighteous, but the truth conquered the lie. When we see this, we understand why it is that love rejoices with the truth. It isn't simply a matter of wanting to tell the truth. It is that we have come to know the truth, and it has set us free. We love the truth, and we become like what we love. Better, we become like the one we love. The one who is cradled in the manger is the truth. He is so himself. John saw it. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And when we rejoice with the truth, Then we begin to rejoice in everything that is true. Only then are we set free from loving and rejoicing in wrongdoing, because love came down at Christmas. I want to take a moment to thank you for reading along with us today from the book Love Came Down at Christmas. We would like to thank the Good Book Company for graciously allowing us to share this book in its entirety with our followers from camp. To purchase a copy of this book for yourself or for a loved one, please go to thegoodbook.com or Amazon. The links can be found in the description of these readings that we are sharing with you. If you enjoy this book and want to learn more about the author or further publishings, please like or follow the Good Book Company on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We trust you have a safe, joyful, and wonderful holiday season.